Hi everyone and welcome back to the Secret Sunday session. Today I'm joined by Matt Runnalls from Mindfull Australia. Welcome Matt, thank you so much for jumping on today.
Thank you for starting these conversations. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, they're very important conversations to have. As we know, in the 21st century, there is a lot of noise out there, lots that is going on, a lot that I feel us as humans need to process and understand. And whilst we are trying to understand how everybody else thinks, we have to try and figure out how we think and who we are. And that can be quite stressful. No matter what age you are, I don't think there's, more pressure on young people or people of a mature age. But it's kind of why I've brought you on today. And I'm really excited to dive in and talk about the work that you do and how we can really navigate this noise in this space to really come out somewhat okay, because I feel happy is a really high standard, but if we can just get through day by day and enjoy the small moments, then I feel that we can be winning at life. So as I said, welcome to the podcast and welcome to the listeners to this episode. And as always, what we love to do to kick it off, because I know a little bit about you, but a lot of people in this podcast may not. So who is Matt Runnalls and what does he do with himself?
Yeah, so I guess it's very easy for me to answer it work-wise. It's a really good question when you say who is Matt Runnalls behind all of that. But sometimes I think I get carried away just being the work side of Matt Runnalls. So in the work side, CEO and founder of Mindfull Australia, I'm fortunate enough to travel the world and do a lot of work in the mind and behavioural health space, helping people to, I guess, change the way that we perceive and treat our mind and behavioural health. And like you said, slow down and be present to what we experience and to better understand it. But behind the work, without the work stuff, I'm 33 years of age, just living a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life of someone who's been through some adversity and some challenges, but chose, I guess, not to sit on them and ignore them or suppress them, but to look into what I could gain from it and how I could use those experiences for the betterment of someone else. And in saying that, I guess that work is a big part of who I am, and it's what drives me, and it's my why, and what helps me to get up every day and continue to live as I said, a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life. So I'm feeling very grateful.
It's amazing when people can overcome adversity and really pivot and change their story. I think it's really important because all of us have stories and all of us come across adverse times in our lives, and it's really up to us to make the decision to really pave the way that we want to from that. And talking about your journey, and obviously you mentioned there is some adversity there, and you mentioned the work that you do, this is your why. What led you here? Why is this your story and why are you writing it in the way that you are?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to change the narrative for a lot of people. I feel like I grew up in the most supportive, beautiful environments, which a lot of us do, but a lot of us don't. And so I'm very grateful for the way in which I was brought up. But in saying that, for a long time, I believed that I didn't have any reason to whinge, complain, or to feel what I felt. And I guess I was very unaware of what I was feeling for a long time, and I listened to societal narratives and dialogues of what I should do with those feelings, and it led me to a really, I guess, a dead end, but also a really hard place where I didn't know how to articulate and talk about the things that were tough, and all of the answers in which our mainstream tells you to do were just not effective. And so I guess after going through all of the pain and hurt of my emotional challenges, but also losing a lot of mates to mind and behavioral health challenges, being homeless on the street, I decided that there must be something that I could do with this to better understand it, not only for myself. So I guess first and foremost, it was very selfish of me. I wanted to do and understand this as much as I could so that I could live a life that was a little bit different. I knew what the bottom felt like. I knew what it was like to give up. I tried many a times, and I wanted to know what would happen if I didn't. And I'm still on that journey, just like everyone else is. So I guess, yeah, it's the driving force behind what I do every day, the pain of the mates that aren't here that I wish I could, catch up and have a beer with and have a feed at the pub tonight with and just be Matt. And, I don't have that experience available to me tonight. So it's about continuing to get up with every waking minute and change how we perceive and treat it. And like I said, these are hard, sharp, beautiful edges of love and life. But the more people that understand what I guess you know and I know, maybe we can prevent someone from having to walk that tightrope the same way we have. So, I guess I'm very fortunate for my experiences in a very weird way, but at the same time, it's not a day goes by or a minute goes by that I don't miss those beautiful faces that have played a huge part in who I am and what I do. I guess from someone who was a plumber who I was very good at it, but I had no interest in it. And I did that because I dropped out of school because I couldn't find my sense of love, belong, connection in there. And so I thought that if I entered the real world and do real work, then maybe I'd find it there. And it was in that places that I was physically and emotionally abused for a long time and went through some real pain and adversity and just sat back for years and years and tolerated it until I, decided that maybe there was something that made me bite down on my teeth a little bit harder that I was passionate about and that would not only be of benefit to me, but maybe some other people as well. And that's where I entered the mind and behavioral health space. And as I said, we're 10 years, 12 years, 14 years later, whatever it is now, we're still here, still playing and still as passionate as ever.
Incredible, incredible story to, I mean, go from where you started to where you are now. I want to talk about adversity because, as we mentioned, a lot of people experience it. And everybody's response, everybody's situation is going to be different. But based on your experience, how do people get to such a low point when they are experiencing adversity and not know how to get out of it?
I guess that's because there's a number of things that I truly believe are the precursors to that situation. I mean, a lot of the research now tells us that, the human being's fundamentally wired for love, for a sense of belonging, for a sense of connection. We need a sense of contribution and we need variety or autonomy. And when we don't have those things, we have a disconnect. And when we have a disconnect between any of those 5, 6 things that I just mentioned, it's where life feels tough. Um, However, I know that now. I didn't know that when it was happening. So all of the bullying, physical and mental and emotional pain that I went through was just that. It was pain, and I didn't know how to handle it and to navigate it and to nurture it in a way that I do now, and to know that self-worth piece of knowing what I can do with it to, as I said, to dance with it, to create magic with it, rather than to feel the way I did, which is, tens of thousands of Victorians, Australians are feeling like that right now as they wake up. So I guess that adversity piece for me was um, being able to articulate what I experienced is huge. And I think a lot of people need to take that on board is that, we can't talk about something we don't know how to articulate. So the best thing for me was to go out and learn from as many people as humanly possible about their feelings, thoughts, and emotions so that I could get a better understanding of how to talk about mine. And that was what really helped me. The resilience piece, and that adversity piece for me was understanding my why. It's still the driving force, but behind how I get up of a morning. So in those times that are tough, and we're all going to have them, it was about, really understanding my strengths and my weaknesses, outsourcing my weaknesses, tripling down at my strengths and focusing on those, but also understanding why it is I want to do what I want to do, or why it is I'm getting up, or why I'm making any choice or behavior. And that's when your why is compelling enough, I feel like nothing is impossible, despite how much pain or adversity you might be going through. If you've got a really solid foundation for why you do anything or why you exist, then it just becomes that little bit simpler. And I don't use the word easy because I don't think it's easy and won't ever be. This stuff hurts, but it is a little bit simpler if we have these tools and understandings of who we are. Another one being our value set. Who we are as a person, and here's our behaviors. And when we have alignment in values and behaviors, then we've got life synergy and satisfaction. And these are things that I find have helped on my journey through resilience and adversity, and understanding that I can get up and keep the wheels turning and that I can do something with what I feel, rather than ignore, suppress, marginalize, or drown it under the table like I used to. Maybe there's some other means and ways that I can navigate the thoughts and the feelings that I go through to my benefit or to someone else's. And I feel like, as I said, those 3 or 4 pieces that I've just mentioned are huge in the adversity space for me. We're all going to go through it. We all wake up with problems and challenges. It's just what we do with them. But as I said, as a young kid, 15, 16, 17 years of age, who didn't understand their emotions, who had a great support system, I definitely did, but didn't know how to articulate my emotions. It was very tough, very, very tough. And that's how we do this work, is to help more people to understand the same skill set that we might have now that enable them to look at what they experience in a different light and to know that they can navigate, dance with, and create magic with the way they feel.
Do you think it's unreasonable for us, I guess, as adults and people that are probably have a fully developed brain, to put that pressure, not even pressure, but that idea on kids or that concept to be able to articulate their emotions when a lot of them are feeling different things for the first time? Like how are they supposed to be able to do that?
Very unreasonable. So unreasonable. I mean, I developed a primary school program that's in Victorian schools, Healthier Hearts and Lighter Minds, and I go around and do student sessions, parent sessions, teacher sessions. These kids that I'm meeting in primary schools are far more articulate of their emotions than most adults that I meet. But it is so unreasonable to assume that these young champions know what they're going through. We don't yet as adults, so how can we expect the same of these? It's our role and responsibility as our brothers and sisters keepers, as caregivers, as people who care about the person sitting next to us, is to help walk them through that process too. We're only as good as the information we've got in the moment we need it. So let's give them all the information that they might need in the times that they need it. So that's, I mean, it's so unreasonable to assume that these young kids know what they're going through. Like you said, very good point. Their brains are not fully developed, and regardless of that, perhaps they've grown up in environments that don't support big emotions, that don't understand how to regulate or co-regulate, that don't understand the process of our brain or understand the three components of our brain. All of this beautiful stuff that I wish I had known as a kid. And you know, I would have, I'm not saying life would have been much different. I'm not sure, I can't say that, but I definitely feel that it would have been a little bit simpler had I have understood how this beautiful thing up here works, and having those safe spaces to be able to talk about it and to articulate it to the best of my own knowledge. And as I go around the world, I consistently don't see good listeners. We don't see people who hold a space that feels comfort. We don't see parents who give the quality time that kids need every day. This world is full of doing, 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 and we're just not human doings. We're human beings. We need to slow down, be present, and to allow that 20 minutes of intellectual quality, spiritual, physical, emotional time that a kid needs every day to know that they're loved.
Mm.
When we have that space, we'll see this world change in a heartbeat. But until we slow down and recognize the importance of the people around us, will we see anything change?
I absolutely love that. We're not human doings, we're human beings. I'm going to stick that on my wall somewhere. That is beautiful. And if we look at that though, and as we mentioned, like we can't expect kids or young adults to know and to be able to articulate. They need to be guided, they need to have good role models, and they need to be led. But in saying that, as you said, we don't really have an environment that's set up to even help parents understand how they are to teach their kids or their young adults in order to articulate. How are we supposed to then teach parents and caregivers as, you know, a young person developing in this world when they might have not been brought up in an environment that helped them create safe spaces for their kids? Like they're navigating this as well.
They are, and that's where we have to be gentle and patient with everyone. It's not about pushing or throwing our messages down the throats of people so that this world changes instantly. It's about that gradual process, and you know, I think the more we can speak to the hearts of people around the world that are hurting, with lived experience stories, with people who have an understanding of it, and the more we can bring people in and make them feel supported to learn this content and to understand this stuff, the quicker we'll see development in this space. I think, you know, in my work right now, we put on a lot of parenting seminars, and we see an overwhelming amount of people attend them. And I feel like that's just a result of their aching for it. And it was, you know, maybe 10, 12 years ago when I was doing this stuff and putting on similar events and nobody was showing up. It was just they're not ready. And unfortunately, people have to get to that place of, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Great. Come and have a listen to this. And that's unfortunately where people have to get to. Where we live in a very reactive world, not a proactive world. We live in a reactive world where we wait until something hurts so much that we need to do something about it instead of nurturing what doesn't hurt yet and understanding it so that we don't get to that point. Unfortunately, it's the way the world is, so we're going to play that way. So I guess the more beautiful people we can hang around and the more people we can tell our stories to and educate about what's worked for us and what hasn't, the more people we might inspire to make that change. You know, if you raise your life standards, even my own, the people around me will have a choice. They either come with it or they stay put, and they stay put, they hurt. It won't be long until they follow suit. So I guess I see a lot of wonderful causes around the world and a lot of great advocates, but I think the one thing that's not done the best if we want to change this is that we try to force things upon people and push things down people's throats instead of letting them understand that it's there when they need it and to encourage that behavior. So, you know, bringing Australia has some of the most amazing advocates in this parenting space of emotional regulation. It's just about making more parents know that that exists to them and putting the information in front of them for when the time's right. And I feel like we're doing a good job of that at the moment in this country, and we are trending in some good directions. But yeah, it's a gradual process, and it's maybe not maybe doesn't move as quick as I'd like it to, but here we are, and every day we do something positive in this space, or take another person to understand or articulate their emotions in a positive way, the better someone will be. So yeah, it's a slow process, but it's something that we need to do all together, not just advocates and organizations, but just parents, people that care. Take someone along, drag someone to something, show someone something, explain something to someone. That's how we change the world. The more we sit on these experiences that have hurt us or caused us pain and ignore it because we've got through it, the more people behind us following in our path, where we could have provided something that might have changed their path in a better direction or help them to better understand it and still feel it.
It's so interesting because I hear this a lot in the work that I do where, you're talking to a carer, a parent, a loved one, and they really struggle with the idea where they can see it and they think they know what the person needs and they want to push them in a certain direction or they want to push them to recover or push them to overcome their adversity, but that person isn't ready yet and they're not willing, or there's backlash, and then the relationship starts to be tampered with because there's, two people fighting against each other. How is a parent, a caregiver, a loved one of someone that is going through something? What are they to do when the person that they truly love and admire is just not ready to be helped yet?
Yeah, it's probably the most common asked question that we get, and it's always the hardest one to answer because there's no great answer to it. What we have to do is provide everyone in our world and everyone within our care the same thing, and that's the fundamentals of a human being. We want to be loved, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be valued and understood. So first and foremost, my advice for anybody who's going through this stuff or has people that they care for they're worried about, that's the benchmark. That's our responsibility as someone with a heart in this world, is to show them that they're loved, seen, heard, valued, and understood. Hold space for comfort, ask good questions, listen with no intent to reply, no judgments, no criticisms, no comparisons, no advice, no answers. Just hold a space that feels safe. And my parents really did that for me for a very long time. And while I kicked back off all sorts of support and services until, again, like I said, was in an extraordinary amount of emotional pain, that I did something about it. But my parents always held a space that allowed me to know that when the time was right, I could talk about it. And even though I went through some pretty horrific situations and challenges, and I'm very grateful and lucky to be here, there was always this element that I was loved enough to stay here. And there's so much that everybody wanted to do to help and support me, but yet I kicked back off a lot of it. So again, if more environments we can create for that person that we love, that they feel safe and supported, where there's open dialogues, where there's a space and a time every day that they can talk about these things, where there's consistency in connection, then I feel like we'll push this in the right path. But if we're trying to force something down someone's throat, most things we force are not great. So without using a horrible analogy right now, but yeah, it's just that consistency piece with connection. The more we hold space and allow for meaningful dialogue, the more people will know it's there when they need it. And as I said before, if we parent ourselves first, so role model the right behaviors, role model getting help and support, role modeling having bad days and overcoming them. And the more we can do that and share that with the people around us, they will pick up the little bits and pieces along the journey that will enable them to get to that place of consistent wellness. And then I think that's really, really important. A lot of us just want to stop the pain. That's what we want to do as human beings, where, Australians are huge in the empathy space, but and big carers. However, we try to fix, heal, and problem solve. And that's not the role and responsibility of a human being. The whole responsibility of us as caregivers is to make sure people feel loved, seen, heard, and valued and understood. And when they feel that, we've done our job and role and responsibility that might allow them to take next steps, which is to further educate themselves or get further help and support. The more we can just push more information and education out there to help people to understand that it's there when they need it, the better we'll be.
Do you think that's too hard of an expectation to put on people in the 21st century?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If I asked a room full of 1,000 people right now, put your hands up if you care about the person sitting next to you, I'm going to get 1,000 hands up in the air. Um,
Is a thought different to an action though?
it's exactly that. It's a thought, but if we say we're something, we must role model that. Otherwise, we're not being authentic to who we really are. I mean, I work in a mental health organization and I see communities of people every single day go, I care, I care. We see Thursday, 8th of September every year. Everybody's saying, are you okay? Right? Everybody says they care, but the difference between how much we say we care and how much we show it is the fundamental difference that this world is desperately aching for right now. People do not care as much as they say it. Is it unfair and unreasonable of us to ask of them to care? No. That is a that is a human requirement that people must fulfill if we want to change this world. And as someone who's lost 12 mates to suicide and sat up the back of 12 preventable funerals, please don't get to that situation that I've been into before we start caring. Because as I said, I miss these boys every single day and I wish I could turn back the clock and show them how beautiful and meaningful their life could have been. I don't have that opportunity, and so do thousands of people every year around this country. So please don't let it get to that. Let's action things as much as we say we care. And if we do, it's a matter of a couple of moments a day. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. So someone please tell me you don't have time to care about the people sitting around you.
I couldn't agree more, but I also feel like I have my own sort of perceptions in the 21st century and the noise that we have and social media and all the influences I think that are pushing certain ideas, I guess, that across breeding in the sense of like the messages that we're receiving in the sense that, there's a big push for a self-care movement. Look after yourself, give yourself the time and energy. And in a way, it can come across sometimes as quite isolating. That
You're on your own.
yeah, you're on your own. You
Yeah.
don't need anyone. You don't need to care for anyone. You just need to stay in your lane, look after yourself, and you'll attract the right things.
Yeah, see, that for me is unhealthy. We need a column A and column B there. As I said, the human being, there's a lot of misconceptions and bullshit out in this world about what mental health is and what mental illness is. There's only one thing that's true. It's a disconnect. It's not a chemical imbalance in the brain. That is false, largely proven false. It is a disconnect between love, belonging, and connection. Being loved, seen, heard, valued, and understood. So knowing that every single person on this planet has the capacity to do something to help and support somebody. We can't fix chemical imbalances in the brain, and good, because we don't need to. What we need to do is provide spaces of comfort. So it is our role and responsibility to help people to feel that in this world. And it's not the responsibility of us to tell people, hey, you should practice gratitude, empathy, mindfulness, cold exposure, meditation, and you'll be right. Because that's not going to help people. What we need is to provide space that people know that they can get things up and off their chest and to share them. So it's a bit of a part A and part B. The onus is always on the individual to make sure they're doing stuff for themselves, to dance along their own mental health continuum every single day, the same way I do, living with bipolar disorder. But it's also the same onus on caregivers and people who say we love other people to show up and action that. And we can't save everyone in this world, or we can't change everyone's life as much as we'd love to in this space. But as a rule of thumb, my dad, my mum, my brother, my partner, my best friend, at any one moment, I want to know what it feels like to be them. And I'll never take for granted those beautiful people around me because I've seen what happens when I do.
Mm.
Um, and that's because I've been through the pain. So unfortunately, I don't wish that upon anyone, and that's why we push these messages. It's unhealthy if we continue to talk about the narrative of self-care and stay in your own lane, and you got to put the time and effort into yourself. Yes, you do, but you also need good people around you because that's what the human being's fundamentally wired for.
Mm.
Connection, belonging, love.
It, it is. I feel like it's really innate in us, and we can see this play out time and time again in the role of digitalization. I feel, and I really would love your opinion and thoughts on this, is that, with a lot of us opting to, say, even in relationships, opt to take on dating apps and opt to, join Facebook groups and connect with people online and texting and messaging and FaceTiming. Is that fitting the belonging and connection that we need as human beings?
Interesting. It's of course in an ideal world we would be face to face. When we're face to face, we have the ability to see the signs. We have the ability to read behavior, mannerisms. If the first tear comes from the left eye duct, it's sadness. The first one comes from the right eye duct, it's happiness, joy, and contentment. If the feet are pointing any other way than towards the person you're talking to, they're uncomfortable. If they look up in the top right-hand corner of their eyes, they're lying. These things are right in front of us at any one moment. However, if we're in a virtual world, we don't get to see that, and all we get to hear is the words. And when we only hear the words, we don't hear tonality. And tonality is where the message is. So yes, we should be more connected than ever because of the virtual world that we're living in. So we have no excuses not to reach in and connect with the people we love. There's also these platforms like the virtual space to be able to see faces, and which is a even better step, of course. But at the same time, um, you go back as far as you need to go to see and to have enough research and data to prove that when we were connected, we sat down, we had dinner conversations. There's a lot of research and stats to show how many suicides are of families who weren't connected via the dinner table. And I think that's enough proof for us to understand just how important it is to have face-to-face contact. But we are in a virtual world. We do have the opportunity to connect to people at any one moment with a touch of a few buttons. But yeah, let's do as much as we can to connect in a face-to-face format so that we can read the signs, behaviors, and mannerisms of people that might be struggling or hiding or suppressing emotion or operating with smiling depression.
Mm. Keep mentioning, like I couldn't agree more in this space, and it is such a rapidly changing world where we're navigating kind of as we go how to communicate, how to connect, and it's also this feeling that even if you don't want to go virtual, you miss out because everyone else is virtual. So that brings another added pressure that you have to go online and connect with people because not everybody opts to do face to face now because it brings their own challenges and we see this in the statistics as well with more social anxiety and kids opting to even connect via gaming because it's just more safe. And I guess that's then my question for you in this space. Have we gone too far in the sense that like we're becoming afraid to socialize and we're opting to isolate more? And is that bringing its own concerns within itself?
Oh, 100%. Yes, absolutely. The more we do play in this virtual space, and again, very understanding and aware that a lot of stuff is virtual these days, and it does make life simpler. However, there's a big component of that self-awareness piece that needs to identify with what we need as human beings. Um, we're, as said, it's a tough one. We're not going to move in a different direction. Technology is just going to keep growing in
Yeah.
as it does, and it's its own beast. But yeah, there's enough research and stats out there to show the implications and the negative effects of technology and devices. It's causing a lot of and wreaking a lot of havoc on parents with parenting, with gaming, with their sense of identity of who they are. The more schools that we go in right now, the more anxiety there is. And that's not just down to technology, that's down to parenting, it's down to food, it's down to lots of things. So, yeah, I guess these are rolling with the punches. The world's moving in a fast direction. We have to keep up. And that's why I said the more times and more space we can create, our role and responsibility is to live in the betterment of someone else, right? So if we operate out of that every day that we wake up as adults who are hopefully emotionally mature somewhat, then our own responsibility is to always be there when someone falls. But this world that we're creating right now in the virtual world is that when someone falls, no one's there. Then we can't see these things and we can't identify with these things. So it's going to make it really, really tough to care for people. And a lot of people are hiding behind these things. So yeah, I mean, it's something that we need to continue to dig into and search for better answers. But with that rule of thumb of the five people around us, we want to make sure that we're connected as we can be. And hopefully, when we have a rule of thumb of five people, we connect with majority of people in this country right now to make sure that somebody's always got their eyes on somebody. But
Mm.
obviously, there's going to be people that are missed, and that's where going back to our own acceptance and ownership for our own wellness is important too, because sometimes there isn't people there to support us. Sometimes you are alone in this world. And even if you're not, sometimes it can feel like that. So it's about understanding what I can do with these thoughts and feelings if I'm all alone in this. If I'm the only body who understands me, if I'm the only person who cares or feels like cares. So, as I said, back to part A and part B before, we just need to acknowledge both and to be the best we can be with the information we've got. And that's the importance of education. It's the importance of lived experience, people who have lived and breathed it to better understand what they did well, what worked for them, etc., etc.
And if you don't mind me asking, I know you mentioned earlier in the podcast that you are experiencing bipolar
Yeah.
disorder. Does that bring its own challenges for you each day trying to navigate this space?
Yeah, absolutely it does. I pretend that it doesn't. I try to tell everyone that
Don't we
bipolar.
all?
Yeah, I mean, for years and years, I think I tried to trick my brain into believing that bipolar was my gift, and in the most part, it is. I have a very creative brain, and when this thing's working for me, I can conquer the world. When it's working against me, it'll do its best to challenge that. But in a lot of regards, I'm no different to a lot of people in terms of our brains are all the same in that way. Yes, there's other challenges that present themselves with bipolar. I mean, my ability to navigate big emotions and feelings as quickly as or efficiently as others might somewhat differ. And that's why I have to do a lot of work to navigate that and to find my happy medium with how frequently I fluctuate between highs and lows. Suicidal lows to manic highs, and equally are challenging and difficult to navigate. So, once upon a time they got the better of me because I didn't understand it. But these days, I can pick a manic episode coming on from days in advance, and I have the awareness and the articulation to tell the people around me. The same way that, everyone in my circle is very aware of what I need in those moments, but they're also very aware of the behaviors that they'll see and what it is and how to navigate that for them on their end. So yeah, it presents its own challenges, but as I said, when I'm living well and healthy and I'm consistent with my wellness plan, then this thing is at my absolute gift, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I really wouldn't. It's helped me to create a lot of the things that I've created and work at a different pace, I believe, to most people. And you only have to look at the stats of bipolar disorder. 34%, I think it is, of Pulitzer Prize winners bipolar disorder, 17% or something like that of Nobel Peace Prize winners, bipolar disorder. That's what I drive off. That's okay. Well, while I'm not there amongst them, I definitely want to look at this like a gift rather than look at it like it's some sort of negative or crippling suffering, which, as I said, as per the dictionary, suffering is accepting torturous defeat, dying in installments. So when I hear people say they suffer with bipolar, suffer with depression, suffer with anxiety, for me, that's a mindset, and I just choose not to. And it's just a healthier way for me to live is to get up every morning and choose to live with it and dance with it and create magic with it versus suffering. And I definitely used to live in the suffering boat of poor me, life sucks. Why me? Why do I have this? And funnily enough, I never went anywhere fast. And funnily enough, I never had a good time of anything that I did. And so it's just a different way that I choose to live these days. And hopefully more people like me can get to that place of acceptance for what they have. And labels belong on jars, not people. So, while I live with bipolar disorder, I truly believe it is my gift, although it does come with some challenges day in, day out. But the more you learn to walk that tightrope, the more competent you are at it. And so every single day is an opportunity for me to learn and grow in that space and to better understand it. But I didn't sit there with my diagnosis of bipolar and just get up the next day and go about my business. I went rigorously into the books and into the podcasts and into the education space and watched speakers that had bipolar so I could better understand them. And thanks to them, I live a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life. So I'm just trying to do the same thing for others.
I love it. That is so amazing. And I think it's such an important message to share that anyone that is going through adversity or is experiencing adversity in some way, because as it is, it's completely a mindset. And I feel like as human beings, like our greatest privilege is choice. And you can decide how you write your story, what you do with your life. And as you said, a label is meant to stay on a jar. It's not meant to be something that defines you. You are the person that defines yourself. And I think that's so important and such a great message. And I am going to slowly start to wrap us off before we get to our final questions. But I will ask one question before I do pick from the hindsight bag. Takeaways. What are in your journey so far? There could be many, but let's stick to two takeaways that you think is something that you wish you probably would have known, and now that you know now, you think everybody should be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot. So it's not that any tool is better than any other, but I mean, they've all played a big part. But I meant for me, it's just the process of slowing down. This thing up here goes a million miles an hour. And yes, that might be thanks to the bipolar disorder, but this thing is chaotic. It's busy. So it's slowing down and understanding things and feeling things, not suppressing them, marginalizing or removing them, but I guess trying to understand with everything that I feel, why am I feeling it? Who's around? Can I navigate it? Can I change it? Can I remove it? Can I grow with it? Whatever that is, and then it's the next thought. What's the next thought? And when I sit in that and slow down and journal and reflect, then I have the ability to better understand myself and where I see patterns of behavior, where I see consistency, where I identify my triggers. And I think that that's been the biggest one for me in that reflection piece is slowing down and being present to what I feel, but being unapologetic about who I am and what I experience. And I think for a long time I suppressed it, like I just mentioned. And now I've just come to terms with this is who I am. And while I often say this, I miss old Matt. I really do, because I didn't always have bipolar disorder. But my bipolar disorder was activated by trauma. So while I miss the quiet, introverted kid that kept to himself and read books and colored in coloring books, I'm not that person anymore. And I wish I could be. However, I'm just learning to fall more in love with the person that I currently am and riding the waves of all of that comes. And yeah, there's a big part of me that works extremely hard to be able to be that. So yeah, for anyone out there, it's about putting the work in. But as I said, this thing's the most powerful tool in the body. When it's working for you, you can do whatever you want. When it's working against you, it's hard. So we just have to put some of that time and effort every single day back into the number one priority, and the number one is always us.
I always do this and quickly add in another question. But when you were
Yeah.
talking, did you ever give yourself permission? Because obviously it sounded a little bit there that you miss, as you said, the old Matt. But do you think it's important to grieve that process of you letting go of a version of yourself, knowing that you may never return or you are to never return to that version of yourself?
Yeah, and it's probably something that I haven't done as well as other things. If I sit and talked long enough about the old version of Matt, I'd probably get really emotional. It's something that I just miss. I miss because, you can do all this work, and anyone around me would be able to tell you I'm so thorough with my wellness. I live and breathe it and go above and beyond to better myself. However, there's a big part of me that is struggling to come to terms with the idea that I'm not the person that I once was, and that the fiery outbursts or the quick decisions or the manic behaviors or the racing thoughts is not something that I can remove, as much as I do a million different things to help it and develop it and understand it. There's a part of me that just knows that there's a no return. And so that grieving process is going to have to take place, because it's something that I cannot return to that person. As much as I'd love to sit on the couch and color, I can't sit still for for moments of time. But yeah, it's an evolving process. But yeah, I miss the old version of Matt, and I'm very blessed that I am able to better understand that, I guess, pre-mat and post-mat of bipolar disorder and the trauma that I've experienced. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for this. And I just try and find a happy medium there where I can just be the best version of myself and dance with this beautiful thing that's in my head that drives me in the right direction. So as I said, like Mindfull, the programs, what I do wouldn't exist if I didn't live with or go through the challenges that I've gone through. And I'm very blessed and very grateful for all of it. As much as I said at the start, I'd love to have my mates back. I'd love to not have put my family through what I've put them through, and hurt the people that I've hurt. It is what it is. And we'll just continue to make right of what I've got in front of me.
That's all you can do is just deal with what you've got now and make the choices now to really better yourself so that you can help the ones around you. All right. Okay. First question. Something that has surprisingly helped you in your journey that you didn't think would.
Oh, well, I guess I'm going to say it's not surprising. I think I always knew it, but I rejected it, was nutrition and food.
Okay.
I tried to be that person that would out-train the bad diet, but no, I'm my best version of myself when I'm eating right. When I'm eating right, I'm in the gym. When I'm in the gym, I'm up early, or it just snowballs. So it's not that it was surprising. It's more so the fact that I think for a long time I tried to reject the idea around it. I'm the worst eater in the world. I would love to live out of Bain Marie's and eat stupid food all the time, but unfortunately, we have two brains and one of them's down here in our gut, so we need to look after it. So food and nutrition, still something I'm trying to understand and be as disciplined as I can with, but super imperative and important to our wellness and how we think, how we behave, the choices we make, everything. So, not that it's so surprising to anyone out there,
We all, yeah, have a weird relationship with food, nutrition, sleep, like all those little one percenters. I feel we're told it throughout most of our lives. Like you get these three things right or four things, whatever they are, and you'll set yourself up for a great day or set up the best version of yourself. But it's not until we kind of all need to find or experiment or get to a point where we actually truly believe it and hear the lesson. And that's what I
yeah,
say often to people is, you can tell a young person the best advice, but not until they're ready to hear it or
correct.
they implement it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the frustrating part of advocacy, but we just have to be gentle with that. And the same way that I found my lessons the way I did is the same for someone else. So we just have to acknowledge that if we throw it out there and put it in front of them as many times as possible, without making them feel small because of it, then hopefully they'll pick it up and run with it and join us where we are.
I just keep saying Hansel and Gretel, you just got to drop those breadcrumbs and
You do.
eventually.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Excellent. Exactly right.
Alrighty, second question. Oh, it's kind of fun. If you weren't where you are today, where do you think you would be?
Well, it's a very relevant question. It's what I'm tossing up and playing with all the time at the moment. I've been in the space for 12, 13 years, done a lot of work right around the world. Um, but I think that there's something else out there for me to do. So, I always wanted to play professional sport. I was never competent enough to do so, or let's say disciplined enough to do so. But I would love to combine my two arts. So, um, I'm front and center of everything that I do. My face is on everything, my name's on everything. I'd love to live in a world one day or one day soon where I'm doing something that doesn't require my face, my name, that I'm just hidden in the background playing a part. And I feel like maybe I could combine that with my love for sport, and bring my expertise to that field in some way, shape, or form. So we don't know what's next, but I'm going to move towards that direction anyway and see what's possible. I also love magic, so maybe illusion and magic something that we can play with, but that does require my face and my name.
Incredible. I love it. And just a little bit of context. If we were to play sport, would we be entering a field, a court, a pitch?
I'm an American sportsman, so I love
Yeah.
my NFL. I love baseball. I also love combat sports, so I love boxing and MMA.
So really the world's
I
your
don't know that
oyster.
I'd like to play them, but I love watching them.
Well, you never know. It's the 21st century. You could find something where, as you said, you're just watching it and you're doing what you love.
And just something in the background would be happy for me, just so that I can continue to follow it around the world. And I think I'd be pretty content with my life if I was to able to follow the NFL or the baseball around 24/7 and play a small role in the well-being or the culture or the leadership or something of those environments. I'd be pretty happy, I think.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing your journey and insights in this space. It's phenomenal. And the work that you're doing is incredible. Coming from a place where, as you said, you've lived it, you've breathed it, you've seen it, and it's amazing that you can really turn it around to create magic and moments for other people by just paving the way. And I'm so grateful that you're in this space and being a leader. And wherever it takes you, I'm excited to see where it does. If it pivots and takes you to somewhere in the sporting world, how exciting! As long as I guess you're following your passion and your purpose, and it's what it's all about.
Thanks so much for having me. As I said, I'm very grateful for people who start these conversations, and the more of them, the better this world's got to be. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. And where can people find Mindful Australia?
Yeah, Mindful Australia on all social medias. Mindful spelt with a double L, being mindful of those with a mindful. Our website's there for all of our services, speakers, and all the things that we do. But if people want to get involved and come play, we'd love that. The more beautiful people that understand this space, the better that this is going to be. So, and the more fun we have on the journey of it all, makes it all worthwhile.
It definitely does. Well, thank you so much. And thank you as well, everyone else out there, for joining us for another Secret Sunday session. We'll catch you guys all again very soon.